this week's edition of Live Well with Barrie, the show that highlights the inspirational people in the community. Today we have two great ladies, Marilyn and Pamela. I'm being informal here, okay? I call them movers and shakers. So, welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Quite honored to have you. This one here is an author, her new book, which we'll get to later. This lady here, I'm still trying to work out what she does because motivational speaker, it seems you are. But as you said, it's what don't I do? So tell me, what do you do?
Oh, that's a big question. And it really depends on the day of the week.
Right.
I started off very traditional, did a business studies degree, was going to be a chartered accountant. And partway through my accountancy studies, I gave that up to be a hypnotherapist and a coach.
Okay.
Over the years, I started that 18 years ago now. So over the years, I'm probably...
18 years ago?
18, I know, I don't
She
look old
doesn't
enough.
look old enough.
And I do 20 or so different modalities in terms of NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, you name it, soul plan reading, I do it. And alongside that, I know it's going to sound a bit strange, but also worked as a management consultant and a Prince 2 project manager and worked in central and local government. So designing and delivering trainings, running away days, executive coaching. I also write for newspapers and magazines. And so it really is an eclectic mix and I love it that way.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it seems you're a very busy girl, so we're lucky to have you.
Well, I'm honored to be invited.
A very good busy girl. So you, Pamela, tell me about you. What do you do? What's your main thing?
My main things are by day, I'm a senior probation officer working in London and I manage teams.
I'm not guilty.
Working with service users. But I started my career nearly 30 years ago working for the Crown Prosecution Service.
Okay.
So when you get the solicitors at the front or the barristers at the High Crown Courts,
right.
and then they've got those people behind them who are writing away, that would be one of the roles
Oh,
that
that's
I had.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
So I've been a manager now for nearly 18 years.
Right. Growing up, tell me, where did you grow up? What side of town did you grow up?
I grew up in Canning Town.
Okay, so East London, and you're still that side of town now?
Yeah, moved out of Canning Town, but
Right.
I'm still in East London.
Okay. And school?
I went to Eastleigh Community School back
Right.
in the 1980s. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, it was 1980s.
Yeah, the 1980s. I think I left school in 1984.
Okay. And school, was it a good experience? Because people have varied responses to that question.
Yeah,
I mean, personally, I loved school.
Yeah. And I didn't mind school, but I think the teachers were quite narrow in what their expectations of children were. So you either went, if you were a boy, you went to Ford's down Dagenham down the road, and you worked there, and the girls probably got pregnant, and that would,
and that's the end of that.
Yeah. But an event that changed my life is that I was selected to go to Barbados to represent the school on a school exchange.
Okay.
And when I travelled to Barbados, I got to see black police officers, black teachers, black people in roles of
in prominence. Yeah.
And the expectations of the school that I went to, which was Combermere School.
Combermere is one of the best schools.
And the expectations that they have of their pupils, one of my closest friends that I met on the trip wanted to be an astronaut. Right. And everyone wanted to be the first Bajan in space. Everybody took him seriously.
Okay.
So there was no limits, no dumbing you down, to fit particular roles.
Because that's really the story that I hear from a lot of people about the education system here. I mean, from what people say, I was quite fortunate to go to school where I went to school because I really had a great school experience. I enjoyed it, I have to say.
Yeah.
But most people are saying that, they weren't encouraged or inspired by their teachers and, to be better or greater. So it was really a struggle to do it and achieve it.
Well, thankfully, there were one or two teachers, both of them from Barbados, who were teaching at the school. And it was those teachers who set up the school exchange, and it just made you see the world differently.
Right.
So I was inspired from them. So from around 17, I thought, you know what, I could be anything I want to be.
Yeah.
If I study hard enough and if I go for it.
Absolutely. And you, Marilyn, where did you go to school and grow up?
This is my neck of the woods where we are right now.
Oh, right, okay.
I was actually born in Kennington.
Right.
There was a hospital that's no longer there. We lived in Clapham until I was 10, and then we moved to Vauxhall, and that's where I lived until I went to university. So I went to Vauxhall Manor. We had an annex in Kennington as well. So it felt a little bit like the old stomping ground when I came out of the station.
Yes, you did mention that. You said, that's my old stomping ground. I'm revisiting home.
Absolutely.
So what was your school experience like?
My school experience was interesting because my parents were very interested in education.
Absolutely.
And I distinctly remember one day coming home, opening the front door, and I thought I heard my headmistress. I'm like, that can't be right. My dad's got the headmistress up in the living room on the sofa, chewing the fat, and I couldn't believe it. So he'd invited her around to the house to talk about our education. And so my parents were very much of the mindset, because I said, but my friends aren't doing that. Number one, my mum said, look, if they're really your friends, they will support you.
Absolutely.
And number two, I don't care what your friends are doing. This is what you're doing. Never mind them. And so even if school
and
wasn't
if you
pushing,
notice, those principles remain through life into adulthood.
Yeah.
If they're really your friends, they will support you
exactly
and encourage you.
So there was none of this like but I'm in South London or no, they weren't having any of that.
Yeah.
It was do your best, never mind what everybody else around you is doing.
Absolutely.
Which at the time was challenging to say the least.
It is.
But I think it has served me well, even in terms of making a radical career change, going, look guys, I'm giving up the accountancy, I'm going to become a hypnotherapist. That's crazy talk for many people. They're like, have you been inducted into a cult? But I think somewhere that seed of, never mind what everybody else around you is doing, focus on what you're doing, I think that kind of carried through. So
yeah, and that can make you quite unpopular because people much prefer a sheep that's doing the same as everybody else rather than a person that's going to say, well, I'm not interested in that, I'm doing this, so you can follow me or I'll see you later. But I
think even just the two of us with the hair,
absolutely.
I've never set out to be...
I feel left out. Can I just interrupt you? I feel left out. I was all running down the road to look and see if I could find a wig in one of the beauty shops to just fit in.
But I've never set out to be a trailblazer. I've never set out to try and, break a mold or do anything like that. But I just decided I would do this. And now suddenly it's popular and all the rest of it. But I think in terms of, I don't know how long you've had your locks, but even doing that was almost an act of, because my mother was not happy about that. She was happy until she realised it wasn't extensions, and then that was it. But,
Right, I mean, my story is a little bit different. I made sure that when I did the great reveal, we were in a public space. So my mother wouldn't behave badly. And it's interesting, we had all the weaves, the extensions and everything else, but I was the first to go natural amongst the four girls, my mother and my sisters. And flash forward now, one has a number one haircut, the other one has her hair in a natural hairstyle, and my mum keeps hers nice and short with the grey coming through, looking spectacular. So it's been a journey, but I was nervous about how I'd be received, especially in the Caribbean, you're turning into a locks woman and Rasta woman and this and that. It's not something that they were about. But one thing that's refreshing about going to Barbados, you see locks people in the banks, you see locks people with businesses, they're on the TV, they're reading the news. So it's been quite a movement and cultural change where these hairstyles are more acceptable.
So are you from a big family?
Yeah, there's 7 of us all together, so mum and dad and 5 siblings. Yeah, so I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
And were you always the trailblazer?
Well, I wouldn't call it trailblazing. I think I had to try and break down a lot of barriers.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I wanted to go out and rave and do all of that, be home at 12 o'clock, Dad's not really realistic. Whereas the others just came through.
All right, so you're the eldest and you had to really set the path for those that were coming behind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And what about you?
I've got 3 sisters, there's 4 of us in total. My dad always wanted a boy, never mind Dad. But I'm the second.
Okay.
So there was somebody to blaze a trail, but actually that worked against me in a way. because my older sister, very bright, very clever, very outgoing, very dynamic, and then I was like the shrinking violet behind her, so very quiet.
Well, they always say that it's difficult. They call it the second child syndrome or something.
Yeah, and I actually think it's real. Because I was very, very intimidated and very much in her shadow. And it's nothing that she did. She was just being herself.
Her. Right.
And I looked at that and went, I could never do that. And so I went the opposite way and was very introvert and very quiet.
But now you're adults. How has it changed?
Put it this way, we were in my sister's kitchen a couple of months ago, and my sister had come over from Barbados, and her new partner was saying, so how did you get into doing what you're doing? And I said, well, I went overnight from being very quiet and very shy to now being the woman. The problem is to shut me up. And my sister went, yeah, she said, stop talking. So now it's a complete role reversal. Yeah. But growing up, it was, for me, challenging because she was so bright and so clever. And I just felt I was just about, hanging on.
Right. So what was it that made you write this wonderful book, Loving the Brothers? Pamela Haynes, go out and get it.
What made me write it? It's been an idea for decades, and I suppose it's been one of those things that I've always had on my bucket list that I wanted to
write a book.
To do. As you know, I work for the probation service, so I work with victims and perpetrators of domestic abuse. So I wanted to always write, and it's taken shape from being just about speaking about victims to actually deciding to make it a fictional book. So in the last 2 years or so, it's been fiction, and been trying to put it together.
So let's have a brief synopsis of the storyline.
Okay, without giving too
much away, obviously.
3 women meet a set of brothers called the Morgan brothers.
Okay.
So Manly, Marcus and Junior, and they obviously fall in love. But things aren't as they seem.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll see from the cover, their faces are all distorted. So, what you see is there's lots of layers and lots of other things going on in the background there. And essentially, they all plot to leave their partners on the same day.
The women?
The women.
Okay. Okay, don't tell me anymore because I'm going to get stuck into that tonight.
Right, good.
So what about you, madam? Tell me about your latest career move.
My latest career move.
Because I see all your Facebook Live things, and I'm just, this lady is so overwhelming that, you know what, I need to just do it in person because I can't even watch her on this.
At the moment, I'm really embracing technology.
Right.
And so a year ago, I started running an online membership group. And it's a place for all of my favourite things, all of the things I absolutely love doing. I love the management consultancy, I love answering questions, I love problem solving. At the other end of the scale, I love a bit of angel tarot. I love sharing wisdom and knowledge, both from ancient times and modern wisdom. And so there's a theme that runs throughout the month. We've got 7 themes from Motivation Monday right through to Soul Food Sunday. Okay. And it all happens now online. In the last couple of months, I've been building an online website, which is now almost like a knowledge web and resource library for everything that we do, because it started off as a Facebook group.
So for example, give me 2 examples of things that you deal with that you would answer questions about or give solutions to.
We did Think Tank, so it's a video session. So yesterday was Think Tank Thursday. We did overcoming procrastination, how to structure presentations and how to come up with ideas for presentations, how to present and speak with confidence, how to get over the rabbit in the headlight syndrome. And also somebody was asking about forgiveness when the other person isn't sorry and is not offering you any kind of apology. How do you live with that? And we also did a piece about the body and healing. So it's really diverse. People can ask anything they want. And so that was just happened to be what was on the table for yesterday.
So the solutions you give, are these facts, or do you think they're based with how you feel about what you're being asked?
The thing I always say to everyone, whether it's doing something like Think Tank Thursday, speaking to a client, doing a talk, I would say, look, this is food for thought.
Right.
I'm going to give you some suggestions, some ideas. If you like what I share with you, take it on board and use it. If you don't like what I share with you, please feel free to leave it on the table and move along. And so with the things like public speaking and fear of presenting and procrastination, I was kind of talking about the things that have worked for me, the things that have worked for my clients. And when it comes down to the more intuitive stuff, it's just like, here, let me give you half a dozen suggestions. And out of those, you might find something that
that's
really
particularly appealing to you.
With you. Yeah.
Brilliant.
But that's my philosophy for life. People say, oh, can I have your advice? I'm like, no, can't give you advice. But I can share with you some thoughts and ideas and suggestions.
Right.
And let's see how those seeds
Yes, it's very
grow.
different, and it's very important to be clear that one is just offering suggestions and saying, well, you could try this. I'm not advising you to, and saying that is the answer, but this is an option.
Absolutely.
Right.
I love it. So yeah, online for me, I love it. Teleseminars, webinars, video webinars, so all of that sort of stuff, because I've got people in the group all over the world, and it means that there is no barrier, because even though we live in such a connected world, I have noticed that people are very disconnected.
Absolutely.
And you can be in a city as vibrant and amazing as London and still be lonely and not have what I call your tribe. And so the things that have happened in those online groups, the first one I ran was coming up to, pushing into 6 years ago. The connections have been beyond phenomenal. And a lot of the times people have never met in person. And now we got somebody that flies over from America for the weekend to come and have dinner with the group. She's done that every year for the past 4 years. That's how deep those connections go. But it started online, and that's when people say, oh, I think online. I'm like, no. It depends on how you connect and what you are speaking about and the people that you bring together. And having seen the power of that and the fact that you could be somewhere remote in your living room and still have a heartfelt connection, that makes me excited, and that's where I'm putting a fair bit of my energy and attention at the moment.
Right, so you, Pam, what advice, using that word again, advice would you give somebody who wants to write a book but doesn't know how to go about it?
Well, I was asked today, I went to get my little nails done because I was coming on the show, and my beautician asked the same question, and I told her to get hold of a notebook and a pen and just start writing.
The old-fashioned way?
The old-fashioned way.
Right.
I mean, if you prefer to use a laptop. I mean, I like using speech-to-text software as well, so you'll see me with my phone just speaking into it, and then on my laptop everything is just moving along and typing it all up. Just make a start, because the sooner you start, the sooner you can finish. And before you know it, you turn around and you've got, 50,000 words.
Well, I mean, this is quite good that because it's fiction, you said.
Yeah.
Right. What was the basis for the creation? It must have been things that you'd experienced, or things that you'd seen, heard, or people that you knew?
Because I get the opportunity to work with victims and with perpetrators of domestic abuse.
Right.
At one stage, I was running a domestic abuse program.
Okay.
So you hear stories, little snippets of stories from your service users. And I just decided I wanted to write this story in a particular way, telling a woman's story. So you'll hear from Patty in her voice. She's a professional woman. She's also a senior probation officer. It's not me. Everyone thinks it's me, but it's not.
Okay. Moving right along. Next character.
You'll hear from Charmaine, who is a young mum of twins who feels alone in her marriage. And then you have Rose, who is a pastor's wife in the church. And what I wanted to do was to make those connections with women who are suffering, and it doesn't matter what class they are, what religion they are, but they're experiencing domestic abuse and they want change, but maybe they don't know how to.
It's great that you structured it in the way you have with the characters, because the characters, the three women, are a cross section of people,
right. Yeah.
from a pastor's wife, a professional. So it's not only one group of people that suffer domestic violence.
And that's what I've learned. One particular service user I remember, his wife was a solicitor, quite high profile, doing really well. And she had all that power outside in the workplace, but when she came home, she had to be subservient and obedient, all of those, very restrictive and what she could.
So reading it, lots of different people will be able to relate to it, because.
So far, so good. I've received quite a few 5-star reviews on Amazon, but on a personal level, I have people who will ring me and say, I know this character. she lives in, and I said, no, this is fiction. And I've never met that person.
Did you write the disclaimer in the book then? Yeah.
It does resonate with people. It does because it's set here. It's set in London.
Right.
So when you read the book, you'll hear they get off at Stratford Station,
recognizing places. There's that
restaurants
recognition
that people go to. One of the characters goes to the Royal Albert Hall to watch an opera. So there's a range of places you'll say, yeah, I know that, I know that place, and I wanted to keep it familiar. There are also cameos in there as well, so there are real people in the book. Obviously, I sought their permission to see if I could use them. So there's a DJ in it. In the next book, there's going to be a comedian because they go on date nights, and they go to see this show. Barrie, you might make an appearance in the book.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time because Angela Mar's book is Full Circle. Well, I'm in there, and I didn't know until I went to see her talk about the book. And she's like, well, you're in there, don't you? Who? So it wouldn't be the first time.
So that's why I've tried to keep it real in terms of being real places based in East London, places that you can point out. My publisher, Marcia Spence, is from Birmingham.
Okay.
And when she came down to London and she got off at Stratford, she imagined herself being Patty walking along the platform and Westfield was behind her. And she said, that's in the book as well. So people feel as though it's people that they know, the scenarios resonate with them. As well. So I'm hoping that if it helps one woman to have an insight into her own self, a realization that she is not just a victim, but she can take action, then that's what.
How long did it take you to write?
Forever, but productively in the last 2 years.
All right. Wow, 2 years.
Yeah. Loving the Sisters is coming. But
you made a start on that already?
It'll be a quicker turnaround for Loving the Sisters, so I'm hoping.
Well, you're more competent now.
I'm following a formula now. Before I was just writing.
Yeah.
But now with the support of my publisher, I now have a plan of how you structure a chapter and how you structure your book.
Yeah.
And I know what's going to happen now.
Yeah,
this is a sequel, so I know what's going to happen. I know it's how it's going to end. I have a plan and a writing schedule that I'm working to, but I didn't do any of that before. This was just, I want to write a book and things are on bits of paper.
And then you're trying to get them in the right order.
Right. So it was very much muddled, but now I do feel as though I'm arrived. People would say, you're the author, before they say, you work for probation. And I feel more planned about what.
So when did it get published? It was earlier this year?
8th of January this year.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it before I hit my milestone birthday, and I did it with a few weeks to spare.
Just go with it.
Yeah,
because I'm 35, as you know. Okay, well done.
Thank you very much.
So what made you move out of London, madam?
Work. I actually got a job in Watford, which is where I now live.
Right.
And I was commuting from Vauxhall to Watford.
Really?
And I just looked at the price and thought, you know what? Just for another extra 200 quid, I could actually just live near where I work. And that's really how it started. And then once you've been there a few years, I just looked around and thought, actually, do you know what? It's all right. Got everything it needs. London is just down the road. So that's how I ended up being there. But when I have no connection to Watford, I wasn't born there, didn't know anyone there.
Right.
It was purely just for work, but it serves its purpose.
But you see, that's another example of your get up and go and just, you know what? Let's just do it. Because a lot of people are fearful of doing everything,
But yeah, it's like, and I actually really like it there because even though it's only 20-25 minutes on the train once you get back to Euston, it feels as though I'm kind of in the country. And I just like, and it's so quiet. So I love London. Oh my God, London is one of my favourite cities, even though I've seen some beautiful places around the world.
Yeah.
London is still right up there for me. And I like being just a little bit outside of it, just to...
Close enough that you can get back when you need to.
Absolutely. And I'm just waiting for the Metropolitan line to do the all-night service, hint. And then I'll be able to do the weekend, stay out all night and just get the tube
used to waiting Now, with your busy schedules, what do you do to look after yourself? Because obviously your full-time job and now promoting Loving the Brothers. I'm seeing your pictures all over the place.
That's right, yeah.
In front of the big billboards. What do you do to look after Pamela?
I believe in being kind to myself at least once a day.
Okay.
So whether that is sleeping in, whether that is having a really nice lunch, or a nice herbal tea, or getting my nails done, or going for a massage, but I do actually plan to be nice to myself at least once a day.
I love that. I love that idea. I mean, I do it anyway. I am Mr. Decadent, as you know.
Yes,
but a lot of people, they almost feel guilty that they're being good to themselves. And I just think the charity starts at home. You've got to be kind to yourself to know what kindness is.
Absolutely. I've learned that you can't give out unless you're putting in.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that that your reserves are up and that your energy is up, and whatever I want to do, I want to do it 100%. And I can't do that if I'm depleted or if I'm tired or so
exhausted.
I believe in looking after myself.
Yeah. So what about yourself?
Oh gosh, I think my regime changed probably 25 years ago when I got very, very ill. So I had to become more aware of my body. But in terms of the line of work that I'm in now, I do. It sounds a bit sad, but for the last 18 years, I start every day with a meditation.
I thought it might be something around those lines.
So I'm a fan of breathing. So there'll be points in the day where, particularly if I feel that my mind is running away with me or I'm getting overwhelmed, there's something called Hunaha breathing. So I just spend a minute or two just breathing. And like yourself, I say to people, look, I'm one of the most selfish people I know. And people say, no, you're not, you're always giving, you're always there, or Facebook Live, this, that, and the other. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It means self-care for me.
Yeah.
Like the thing, I always say, look, if you've ever travelled on an aeroplane, they do the little notice and they tell you the mask is going to come down. If you're travelling with children or the infirm, put your own mask on first.
Because you can't help
That's
anybody
not a euphemism.
else.
That is the truth.
You can't help anybody else unless you're on top.
I agree. I cannot be there in the way that I'm there for my friends and for my clients and my family. I don't see my family nearly enough. Sorry, Jackie and Mandy, Natasha. I could not.
Notice she nearly forgot Natasha.
Natasha's in Barbados, so it's not easy. But I couldn't be there for people if I was not putting myself first and making sure that I'm okay, I'm balanced, I'm sorted, and now I can take on the world and, like you say, give it 110%. So
yeah, I mean, self-care is of paramount importance, physical and mental. But a lot of people don't understand it. A lot of people don't understand it, and they don't understand people that do it either. They think, oh, you're a bit selfish or you're a bit decadent. It's like, no, you know what? I give all the time. Whatever I'm doing, I give 200%. And I'm exhausted when I'm finished, but I need to give Barrie something.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day or in the middle of the day, even if it's a 2-hour decadent lunch or,
We've seen those lunches. They look good.
They are. It's what allows me to do everything else that I do. And I'm sure you guys with your busy schedules are as well.
I do believe in taking time out. So I think to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader as well. So for me, there's not the best treat to myself is to be in my chunky dressing gown and to be reading something, feet up. And,
so who are you? Have you got any particularly favourite authors?
I think maybe throughout my 30s it would have been somebody like Terry Macmillan.
Okay.
I've met her a couple of times when she's come to the UK.
Right.
I think as I'm older, I'm tuning more into African and Caribbean women.
Okay.
Their writing as well. So I'm reading When We Were Kings. Which is a Nigerian author. I'm into her book at the moment.
Okay.
So,
and how is it?
It's very good. It's very. I like the writing. I like descriptive writing that transports you into the book and you feel as though you're there.
And what about you? Do you read a lot still?
I'm a photo reading instructor. I think the most books I've read in a day is 29. But I just wanted to see what would happen to my brain. And I'm still alive. but I teach photo reading, I teach accelerated learning, so I love books and I still like a tangible book. Yeah. And funnily enough, I've gone back to, and I don't even know why my sister brought me the book. I must have been in my early 20s and she brought me a book, it's like a yearbook by Ayanna Van Zandt. Yeah. Every single day for 365 days, there's like a proverb.
That's right.
And she wrote something in it about, I might need this book. And at that time, I hadn't yet had my nervous breakdown. So I don't even know why she bought that book and why she wrote that, what she wrote in. I'll have to ask her. But I've actually gone back to reading some of those because it's kind of where my journey started. Because I remember reading Value in the Valley and all that sort of stuff. I was broken. And I was in the valley. I was down at rock bottom, and I was reading it with the hope that one day I could be at the top of the mountain. So it's been really interesting to go back and read it now from a completely different place,
perspective,
and kind of go, wow, when I first put my hands on these books, it was just a dream that I might have my head sorted and that I wouldn't be depressed and that I wouldn't be broken. So it's just been really interesting to go back and look.
But you haven't allowed that to hold you back in any way. It was a period of your life and you've moved on from it.
It was my life until I was 32.
Right.
My whole, my childhood was not great. Then kind of when you get the recollection of what had actually happened to you, that's hard to deal with.
Okay.
In your teens and 20s and even into my 30s. And it wasn't until I stumbled into personal development and suddenly I was like, you mean I don't have to live this way? I don't have to be depressed. I don't have to be angry. I don't have to be upset. I don't have to carry.
So you can actually pinpoint the events or the occurrences that brought that on?
Absolutely, to the day. It's probably something like the 22nd of October, year 2000. I'll have to go back and exactly check my diary, but it was October 2000 when I sat in a room and somebody was talking about the mind-body connection and changing your thoughts and letting go of negative emotions and limiting beliefs, which I have to admit I thought was a load of old nonsense. But I thought, you know what, in for a penny, in for a pound, because
you're not happy as you are, try something else.
Exactly, and I had, at that point, a couple of weeks before I'd rung the Samaritans, I remember keeping the woman on the phone for 4 hours and 10 minutes. That's a long call. And I remember thinking, I don't think I'm suicidal, but I think I am. Do you know what I mean? And I was going through the telephone book and the counsellors and all the rest of it, and I thought, oh, look at the time. And then I just saw the number for the Samaritans, and I actually a year later became a Samaritan volunteer because it was so powerful for me. But to go from that place where you're actually contemplating ending your own, and I actually thought about how would I do it, and oh no, I'm too squeamish for and I was thinking, and then I can't jump on a train line because everybody would be late for work. All of these things, I'd actually sat and thought about them. And then suddenly on that day, walking into that training room and hearing people talking about the power of the mind and how you can get it to work with you rather than against you.
Because ultimately, the mind is everything. Okay, we forget the physical for a minute, but the mind is everything. And when you think negatively, it does work against you because it doesn't lift your mood, it pushes you further down. And there's some people that just live in that space all the time. It's hard to drag them out. I
started 18 years ago. Now we've got things like The Secret and all. When The Secret came, I was like, I've been doing that for, at that point, 12 years. I just started every single day, just find one thing to be grateful for. Absolutely. One thing to be appreciative of, one thing to be happy about. Yeah. And some days it just had to be, I'm alive. But that in itself sometimes wasn't consolation because you're like, well, I'm not enjoying myself, so I might as well not be alive. Yeah. But then it was like, okay, and there are times I'm walking, somebody walked past me with a CNI dog, I'm very short-sighted, but I'm so happy and grateful and appreciative. I can see well enough to go where I need to go and do what I want to do. But it started with very simple things, and that's now with my clients. I'm a fan of giving people something that will take 5 minutes a day. But trust me, do that for 28 days, your life will change. And I've seen it over and over and over again.
And the thing is, what better than to get it from somebody who's experienced it themselves? So this is real. It's not just something that you read in a book and you're saying, yes, we'll do this. You know what I mean? You can actually say, this is beyond just an opinion. This actually worked for me and dragged me out of a dark place and brought me to where I am now, being fabulous in that wonderful belt. Can you see it? I want that belt. I want it. I don't want the shoes, but I want
the belt. She's good.
And I think that's probably the reason why I joined the probation service, because I was working for the Crown Prosecution Service first. But I felt I was part of the problem rather than being part of the solution. So joining probation, we are taking people out of dark spaces, and the program that I ran lasted for 9 months because it took that long for to give them space to think. And often I found that people have insights into their own behaviour, but they just need the time to stop and to think about solutions to their own issues. And we're too busy sometimes to create that space where we can think about how to do things differently.
And that's why I keep emphasizing, you're so busy, what do you do to look after yourself? Because when you're just running from thing to thing to thing to thing to person to person to person, at the end of the day you're so depleted and exhausted you don't even think about yourself, you just want to go to bed. But that's not necessarily therapy that's looking after you, that's just exhaustion. I need to sleep, but when I wake up I'm still tired and exhausted. You know, so that's why the emphasis is on, you're so busy, the two of you. What do you do to keep those minds straight and be able to help others and to be able to write? So,
but the funny thing is, I was the woman. When I was ill, I was sleeping 12 to 15 hours a day. And at that point, I was working for an investment bank in the city. In the end, I just couldn't hold it together, so I gave that up. And then when I got my mind sorted, I went from the woman who needs 12 to 15 hours, I sleep 3 or 4 hours a night, and I'm good. And there are people like, do you ever sleep? Because I see you on Facebook at this 3 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock and 10, and they're like, and I say, actually not that much. And even in the days where I'd be, doing a consultancy day in London for something like Her Majesty's Treasury Department, then I would come home and do a coaching session from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Then I'd get on the phone and do a radio interview in America. And then I would either be sitting to write a magazine article or writing a proposal, because with government contracts, you need to write proposals. And then I would be up 3 or 4 hours later and I'm straight back on it again, same again. And I'd work like a 29-day week and a 15-hour day, and that's not a euphemism, that's the truth. And I would still be buzzing because my energy now partly comes from, I love what I do. And I set it up so that when I'm in conversation and dialogue with someone, it's an energy exchange, and if you're tired and depleted and you need some of my energy, please take it. Because it's ever replenishing.
And I think that's the difference between doing a job because you have to do it and doing something that you really love. Because my window used to be from maybe 8 o'clock in the evening to about midnight to do writing. But I have the characters waking me up and saying, look, this is the story, this is how it's going to develop, and this is what I want to say.
I'm using the word again, advice I was giving someone just yesterday.
Right.
It's like, don't necessarily do a job that's chasing the money. Do a job that ignites something in you, because you have to spend such a lot of time at work. You better do something you enjoy, or you're going to be miserable for a long time. You'll spend a lot of time being unhappy. Do something you enjoy, and when you do something you enjoy, the passion you put into it, the money will come. The money will come because you're good at what you're doing. People love to see you doing what you're doing, and they're getting the best of you. They'll pay for it. You know what I mean? They'll pay for it.
And that's how I got my management consultancy job. They wanted someone to work 5 days a week. I put in a proposal, I made up this thing called annualised hours, put it on a spreadsheet, it looked good.
Not the machine knows what she's talking about.
And I said to them, look, I'm going to work when I want to work, but I'll give you this many hours a year and we'll draw down. So sometimes you'll see me 2 days a week, sometimes 1 day a week, sometimes you won't see me at all. And the rationale I used for them, and it was the absolute truth, I said, look, if you have me 5 days a week, you're not going to get the best of me. Whereas if I'm here 2-3 days a week, I'm going to bring with me the passion and the learnings and the excitement from outside of this. And that's exactly what happened, but that's why I got the job. And for the first, because they'd been running, I think at that point, they just had their 10-year anniversary. I was the very first person they brought on who didn't work full time. Within 12 months, I think Sarah came on next. And by the time I left 9 years later, I would say, all bar 2 or 3 people, everybody else worked what I called the annualised hours.
Okay.
But that was my rationale. Let me also continue to do the things that, it turned out I am passionate about corporate training and executive coaching. I love that too. But back then I thought that you're going to get more value from me if I have the time and the space to also blend it with the things that I enjoy doing.
You're definitely a classic example, or a shining example, I should say, of having been in a dark place, and when they say you have to hit the bottom before you come back up to the top, you're definitely on the top of the mountain that you were doing with your meditation, you know what I mean? You've really come full circle.
It has been.
Yeah.
It has been.
So have you had any dark moments?
I think that once you're, in this life, you will be hit by, you will be hit by dark moments. I think for me the most challenging time is living with diabetes, which I've had for the last 18 years.
And that's type 1, is it?
Type 2
Type
diabetes,
2.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and for me, it will be the risk of maybe losing my eyesight. Which is very real, and which is why I use the speech-to-text software instead of trying to look on a small, laptop. And I've made the book, when you get a chance to read it, Barrie, it's with my eyesight in mind, so that it's at the font that I think that mature people can handle.
I love that, mature.
And there's an enlarged version, which was important to me because I do have other people who are partially sighted as friends, and I wanted them to be able to enjoy the book. Maybe at some stage I'll be able to do an audible version as well, so that people who have very poor sight can also participate and enjoy the book as well. So yeah, I've certainly had my challenges. I don't think anyone's immune from that, but it's how you react to it. So when I do talk about the book, my eyesight isn't the central focus. It's how I got over my challenges.
Which again is, as we were saying earlier, it's about how you handle things psychologically. It really is about the brain.
Yeah. So Loving the Sisters is coming. Somebody asked me, are you going to do Loving the Children? Might be next.
Loving the babies, loving the pets.
But there's also The Karate Club, which is a book that I'm thinking of, which is from an Asian perspective around domestic violence. So, honor killings and all that type of stuff that I'm hoping to go on. So as far as I'm concerned, despite my challenges, I feel as though I have a destination to reach and that I have a purpose, and therefore I'm going to do my best to try and fulfill those purposes.
Well, that's great that you've actually found your purpose, because a lot of people, they live life, they do things they enjoy, but they don't necessarily find their vocation. So, you're lucky in respect that you've been able to find it and just keep forging ahead.
Well, yes, running the domestic abuse program, the fact that they were going to pay me on top of it was like a plus, because there were occasions where I forgot to put in my, invoice or that, because I was enjoying the fact that people, those light bulb moments, nobody said that everything started to, make sense. But when you see that in a service user who's had years of just going around the criminal justice system, and then they're pausing, and things start to make sense, that they realise that unless they change, to see that and to witness that in the room when those light bulb moments happen, I feel privileged to.
Yes, because you actually think what I'm doing is making a difference, and it's got through to somebody.
Right, it's immediate. When I come back from delivering those groups, and my husband said, do you want a cup of tea? I'm like, don't oppress me, and don't, so I'm still in that mode where I'm in the group, and he just goes, oh, here she goes again with her groups. But I do feel privileged to witness those kind of when you start seeing service users challenging each other, and
So your diabetes, when were you diagnosed with that?
I was diagnosed in the year 2000, June 2000. Yeah.
And have you seen direct results from having diabetes as regards to your health?
I would say the
How's it
biggest
affected
impact would be the last couple of years. So, with my eyesight, and so I've had some surgery. I'm due to have more surgery in the future. But they're the major ones, really, in terms of it impacts on the whole body. But for me, that's been the biggest.
The major one.
The biggest challenge.
And everything else you manage and you function perfectly.
Yeah, after the surgery, I had to go up to Birmingham And I was able for the first time, I could see the departure board without any help. I got on the right train.
Okay.
You know, got to the hotel fine, and you know, so
without them having to send out emergency services to locate
exactly
where you are.
Yeah, exactly. So that's been that's been one of the advantages. And I'm just going to try and keep the pounds off and continue to look after myself. Yeah.
Well, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have both of you because, as I said, you're so busy and I see all the fabulous things you're doing. So to have them on Live Well with Barrie is an absolute honor and pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
First show of the spring. What better way? Look at those bright smiles. Spring is here. As of tomorrow, the clocks go forward and longer evenings. So thank you for joining us. And if there's anything in the show that resonates with you, please, please, please put it in your comments. Thank you very much for joining us and see you next time. Bye.